JL0320 representing JVS. So I'm back here again for another review for Iron Fist. This is the first season. I'm doing episode 3 and 4. Episode 3 was named Rolling Thunder Cannon Punch, which is actually a really interesting episode because Danny really gets an understanding of what's really going on behind his back with Ward, with Joy, and like he kind of gets in over his head, specifically at the end of the episode. Like at the end of the episode, I was legit like, what just happened? Like, where is Spider-Man to the rescue kind of situation? But it was very entertaining because I still feel like this show in and of itself is dealing with trauma. Like Jessica Jones was dealing with abuse. You know, Daredevil was literally overcoming like your issues of your own personal demons. Luke Cage's redemption coming from this place of lacking. But I feel like this one has a lot to do with centrally themed trauma. Whether it be trauma from what happened to his ordeal with his parents, or trauma from trying to overcome everything for the past 15 years, or even just in the situation he's in right now, where he's trying to prove his name. And then I love the fact of having Hogarth in this episode. She came back, I was just like, yo, I'm glad she's here. And at the same time, like their connection and their chemistry is actually really on key because she recalled who he was, you know, when everybody else was kind of like doubting. Like she was like, I know, you know, so I've gone through enough. But at the same time, she's representing him, and like that scene at, you know, well, it's two different scenes that I really loved. Like when Danny confronted Joy and Ward, and he just went off on them. It was merited because, I mean, Danny almost died, you know what I'm saying, trying to protect, you know, who he is. Like, somehow literally burning his identity. So it was rightfully so. He felt that way. But then when him and Hogarth came in and they kind of pled their case, I was like, that's it. Like, that was the ultimate thing. But how he got evidence was something that I misplaced when I was looking at the episode. And I'll talk about that more in episode 4. But in and of itself, like, Ronald or Harold is trying to figure out Danny, but more in the 4th episode you get to figuring out why, you know, what is his real agenda. So this episode I give it like a 8.5 out of 10. I actually really enjoyed it, specifically the cliffhanger at the end of the episode. So that's what I think about the episode. So let's go into episode 4. Episode 4 is 8-diagram dragon palm. One thing I didn't talk about in episode 3, it was the fact that Colleen put herself in a cage match, even though she told her students not to. And she kind of really enjoyed it. And in the beginning of this episode, episode 4, like Danny, you know, you get to find out what happened to him. When he kind of fell over, who pushed him over, why. Ward ended up doing it. And then his dad, you know, ended up embracing Danny. It's like, look, take your inheritance back. We need you to defend this. You told him about the hand. And so you really kind of understanding that Harold really needs him to take out the hand. But it's really strange because by the end of the episode, you get to see what Harold is really capable of. And I was just like, yo, this is legit gonna be really interesting. But they still haven't revealed how Harold is the age that he's at. He deflected very well and put him to the side. And Ward had this one comment. He was like, don't trust him. And I was like, for him to say that of all people, I was just like, he really legit meant that, you know. And so part of him really cares about Danny, which is really even more interesting. But when Danny went and took the stand and they kind of proclaimed who he was, I think that Danny finally handled it very well. Because up until this point, me and Alicia were kind of talking like, man, Danny's just kind of like so childish, like in all his responses. And like, he's just so naive as to believe people would understand what he was trying to say. And he presented it excellently. Like, he handled it very well. But then he kind of stretched his hand with his 51% or whatever when he went to the business meeting and was like, yeah, we're not going to make any profit off of, you know, trying to help people. So it was like, it was really interesting. But then also in Colleen in this episode, she went back. She decided to go and fight 2 people instead of 1. And she's just addicted to the blood and the violence. I don't know what her backstory is, but I think that she's going to be a very intriguing character moving forward. And not just that, she's got this real interesting chemistry with Danny, just as much as Joy does. You got to see that when Joy got attacked in this episode, and ended up in the dojo. One thing I'll say about the show is that the fighting choreography is actually on point, man. I don't know what a lot of critics were saying about it, But like I really am enjoying the fighting choreography and where they're filming certain scenes, and I think it's just gonna keep going stronger and stronger. Definitely Daredevil has always had some of the best fight sequences, like period. But I think that this elevator sequence with Danny, I thought it was actually done pretty well. It could have went a little bit harder. I think they're gonna go and stretch it out a little bit further, probably when Colleen and him start fighting together eventually. But I guess episode 9 out of 10, I actually really enjoyed this episode. I thought that this was the episode that kind of like, alright, this could actually be a very interestingly good story, because the story was built off of the first episode, the foundation, and now it's just kind of extended and it's going further and further and further with all these characters. It's like specifically with Ward and Joe, I keep on calling her Joe. Her name's Joy. I did not like them at all, and now I'm slowly kind of like, these are some interesting characters, and I know for a fact that their dad is very dangerous. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this review. Keep it locked. JVS ain't gonna stop. We'll be back again for episode 5 and 6. Peace, everybody.